So when it comes to strength and conditioning, um, I've already mentioned a lot of topics already about, certain things like your weight, understanding how growing up is going to affect your conditioning over time, and all the things like sprinting and how track and field will help your athletic development, and why it is important to also implement sprinting into your training sessions for the adaptations and all those things we've mentioned already in previous videos. Now you have to understand that there is another part which is extremely important about understanding all these things, and that is stretching. Stretching and recovery. Stretching is so important, especially if you're going to be an athlete or a cross athlete, where you're running, turning, jumping, you're doing all these activities in a rugby game that if you're not stretched, if your muscles don't have the ability to overextend through stretching, then it can limit your force production, and it can limit your durability in terms of how often you get injured, what happens to you in a game. And it's simply because of your flexibility. When your flexibility is low, then it's very easy for you to get injuries. It's very easy for you to tear something because your muscle literally has to stretch out when you're sprinting, when you're doing any form of physical activity. So if your muscle can only stretch this much and you overextend, that's how you tear something, that's how you injure something. So when you then understand that, then you understand that when it comes to your running movement, if your joints can only bend, to this level compared to a full range of motion, then, you may move slower, you may, sprint slower, you may have less agility, you may have etc etc etc. And this is why I spoke about gaining weight, and how when you start bodybuilding and training as if you're a bodybuilder, and then your muscles and your joints and your body becomes stiff, then you don't have that range of motion, you lose your agility, you lose your speed. This is why I said 2 centimeters of your quad being bigger can easily become problematic as a sports athlete. You can easily lose a second or two in a sprint, in whatever it is that you are doing, or 50 splits, simply because you gained 2 more centimeters in your sprinting. So stretching becomes absolutely important because it relieves you of that tension. It relieves you of the stress of your muscles not having a full range of motion, or your body not having a full range of motion. So overall, if you stretch and if you condition properly, you will be a way better athlete than an athlete who just conditions properly. He's going to have less durability, he's going to have less flexibility, he will have less outcomes. So stretching, really big thing. Second thing is recovery. Your sleep time, your diet. Those two things are the most important. Like I speak about myself, in a lot of these videos, because I've had a very extensive, training journey. But your sleep, your recovery is very important, because I literally spent 4 years of my life, training in a specific way, which was giving me so many, benefits and positives. But because that's all I knew, I didn't know that there was a way that I could have more, that I could be better. So when I changed my routine, my program, and then I changed my diet, that's when I really started to see the differences coming in. Because when I kept the same diet and still but then changed my routine, I saw that even though I was experiencing adaptations, those adaptations were not necessarily moving in the right direction. But finding out that the way you eat can then improve those adaptations, can help you reach your goals faster, is what was painful for me in my process. That I could have gotten to my goals way sooner if I just had a better diet. That's what hurt me. That if I could have taken back the past 4 years and just done only 2 years of the four, but with what I started doing, at the end part, I would have had better results than the results that I have right now. So I found out recovery and diet are the most important thing. And then What you also need to understand is then fatigue, in the part of recovery. For me, I had implemented a training system in which I'm training only 3-4 days in a week, Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday, but those 4 days are intense 4 days, and that makes it that the Wednesday break day and the Saturday and Sunday break days are intensely for recovery. If you are training maximum volume of your body between Monday and Tuesday, you're resting Wednesday, and then you're going maximum volume again Thursday, Friday, that recovery time between Saturday and Sunday should get you almost just ready for Monday. That's how intense my sessions were. That's how extreme my sessions were, that I had to make sure that I'm getting the most out of training time and I'm getting the most out of recovery. So you want to maximize recovery, maximize training. So once you have the proper conditioning style, focusing on what type of adaptations that you want for yourself and why you're training in a specific way, why you're trying to be more endurable, why you're trying to be fitter, how you're trying to be faster. Once you understand all those things and then you work on that, then your recovery becomes the next big important thing of how can you almost equal, if not even have a better recovery system than your training, so that you're always recovering faster than you are training, which is impossible, but that is typically the dream in which any form of high intensity athlete is going to have. We're going to have the dream of, if I can just find a way to get myself to almost 100% every single time before I train, then that means that if I have a 2-day training rest time, then I can be double again in terms of my recovery time. Then I can have better games, better results, better outcomes, because I'm recovering faster than everyone and I'm giving out better results than everyone, and I'm recovering faster than everyone and I'm giving out better results than everyone. So you want to stay on top of your game by always being ahead of everyone in every single aspect of the game. If you are learning, you are growing, you're recovering, you are all those things ahead of your competition, because that's who you play against. You play against other teams, so you have to focus on how other teams are training and how you can better them. So yeah. And a thing about fatigue for me, what I also realize is that because we are in this scientific generation, we are in this generation that has lost its hardness. I like to emphasize on hardness. The older generation was so used to doing extremely difficult tasks that when you watch the older guys play rugby, they have this thing about them where it's like they want to crash out in a game. They're going in there to say, I want to just go in there and demolish and destroy things. But because our mindset has changed and we no longer have this belief structure of forcing things, it's made us become a bit soft, even in terms of our training. And I believe, and what I always will believe, is that hard work will always work hard. The person who outtrains someone else will always be better. If I can outtrain you, I will be better than you. You can be more scientific, you can be more whatever it is that you are, but if we have a better scientific method, or we have a scientific method that is slightly less than yours, and we outwork you, we will be better than you. Even though you have things and you're using things that are supplementing your game, if we just work harder than you, we will be better than you. So when you then understand that part of conditioning, then you understand that effort will always be a big factor in the game. Effort will always be a massive factor. So when it comes then to losing our hardness as sports athletes, it becomes a thing of are you still working your body to a point where you are pushing past the limit? Pushing past the limit. Like in the olden days, these guys would have 5 training sessions in a week. People would train Monday to Friday, of training Saturday you have a game day. You're literally resting 1 day a week. Professional sprinters train this way. They go, some I've heard they train, Monday to Saturday, and then they rest 1 day. But now, because we've become so scientific, we're like, oh, you can only train, you can train 2 days, you can train 3 days, you can train 4 days, and it's like, for me, if you really are trying to get the adaptations in, if you're really trying to get faster, if you're really trying to get your body to change, you will have to do something as often as possible. So if you understand that, okay, doing 150-meter sprints are going to help with my top end speed. So doing more 150-meter sprints will help you more in the long run. Yes, there is a sweet spot, and other people who believe in other sciences will tell you that, oh, you should only do it 3 times and you go home, or you should only do it twice and you go home. And for me personally, I don't believe in this myself, because I believe that if you only do sprinting three repetitions, 4 repetitions, and I go out there, we've just started sprinting, me and you have just started sprinting, and I do 3 repetitions a week, and the other guy does 8 sprints in a session. Tomorrow he does another sprint session, but differently. And then the next day, next day. If you just go there and you do your minimum volume efforts that you're talking about, I will have better adaptations than you at the end of the year. If I work this year and sprint more than you this year, I will have better adaptations from you this year. And here's what I believe scientifically about sprinting or any form of training that you're going to do. If I sprint more than you, I will get better adaptations than you. I will be a better sprinter than you if I sprint more than you, if I do 5 reps instead of the 3 that you do for yourself. So this belief, the belief that I speak about now, is that as long as we are starting off, as long as we are still at the beginning, as long as we still don't have our volume work in, the more you do something, the better you will become at it. So you will be better at sprinting the more you sprint, and yes, there are sweet spots, but those sweet spots are better for people who've already done the volume work. Like if you have already done high intensity running for a long period of time, and then now you want to taper down because you're heading into competition, then it makes sense to do the sweet spot of, let me do the 3 repetitions instead of doing a full set in the middle of season. It's easier to then do the small works because you've done the hard works before. So for me, I believe your conditioning is more like gym. Here's how your body works when you go to gym. If you start gymming today and you gym 3 days or 2 days a week, you will not grow. You will not see the changes that you want, over time. In a year, you will not reach the places that you want to get to. However, to start off, if you gym really, really hard for the first 6 years, or for the first 2 years, or the first 1 year, however it is that you want to start gymming for, and you go really, really hard to start off with, you will have more adaptations because your body still starting from zero. You will have better muscle adaptations. You will look different if you train more. However, is it healthy to train more? Is it healthy to do like a lot of work, a lot of, high intensity work? No. That's what they'll tell you. They'll say, no, you need some days to recover. You need some days to rest. You need some days to whatever. That's what science will tell you. That's what, the conditioning coaches will tell you. They'll tell you that you need more rest days. So for me, what I realized on my journey is that, yes, you need more rest days, and the rest days make more sense when you already have the physique. And for me, what I've noticed is that whenever you do something or start something different, your body will always have a period in which it has to adjust, and that's usually what accounts for the lack of results that come from fatigue. When you are in a training course, in a training system, in a training camp, let's say you're saying you want to train in a certain way for 2 months straight. So you want to train extremely, this would be what would happen with me. You want to train extremely hard for 2 months. In those 2 months, I'll spend, the whole 2 months just working really, really hard on, let's say we want to really get sprinting in and we want to get volume work in. So in those 2 months, I'm working, and after the first month, I'm going to feel the tiredness. I'm going to feel, okay, I'm tired now, and I'm probably not sprinting as fast as I was when I started on week 2, on week 3. Around week 7, you're probably not moving as fast. You're probably not getting the same times as before. But however, the adaptations are still kicking in. This is now where I say that for me, my method, my scientific method varies from other people, because for me, I believe the knockback is not that you're getting slower. You are not getting slower when you experience that knockback of, okay, I was running 19 over, a 150. Now I'm running 20 or a 21. That knockback is not that you're doing something wrong. It's just your body going through fatigue. You will get less results with your body going through fatigue, but the more you stay in fatigue, the more your mind, the more your body, the more everything about your system understands what that place is like, the more it understands what fatigue feels like. So you want to stay in fatigue for as long as possible, because that is where your body usually feels it's working. That is where your body really gets the adaptations going in, at a higher level. But remember, it's also always being supplemented with a great recovery session, with great, foam rolling, stretching, massaging, to make sure that you don't break down, because fatigue usually leads to injury. So if you don't manage your fatigue will lead to injury. But if you can hold yourself in that space of fatigue and extreme hard work, but just crossing the line so that you're never going past the injury zone, but you're never behind you're always above the average training mark, like the point where you feel like your training sessions are now tiring. When you reach that point where you feel like, okay, now I'm tired, and you exceed that past your limit, if you do that over time, it creates fatigue, and that's where you want to stay. In my belief, that's where the adaptations are, in that space between injury and fatigue. And that means you're going to have to almost cross the line as often as possible in your training sessions, and which is why for me in my sessions, I would go Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday, because then I know Tuesday I empty the tank, Wednesday we refill the tank, Thursday, Friday we clean up what's left of the tank, Saturday, Sunday we die. Saturday, Sunday we rest, we recover. That's why I say recovery becomes extremely important if you're trying to reach this level of conditioning, because it is important to always understand that, for me, in my understanding of conditioning, that zone between fatigue and injury is the zone of improvement. That's where you're uncomfortable. That's where you really start reaching the adaptations. And I say this for myself because I witnessed my body change. I witnessed my times go up. I witnessed, my conditioning go up. I witnessed me start running 4Ks. As soon as I'm done running 4Ks, I'm already, recovered already. So my lung capacity is improving. My lung function is improving. My legs recovery is improving. And all those things are important, because now when we go into the finer things, okay, you're used to running 150 meters and now you're only doing a 50-meter effort, or now you're only doing a 75-meter effort. Now you're only doing the muscle adaptations are going to be short. It's going to be easy for you to change your muscles from, yes, I was running 150s, now I'm running 50s. It's easier to make that change than it is to go from, I was poorly conditioned, to now I want to go straight to the 50s, because it's going to be a heavy load for you. But for me, I'm using 5% of my max effort. I'm using 20%, 40%, 30% of my max effort. So when I get into the short efforts, I can do more, I can push more, I can work more, I can, whatever it is that I need to do. So for me, what I understand about fatigue in my realm is that it is a bad thing, but only if you don't know how to use fatigue. Yes, fatigue will slow your times. Yes, fatigue will get you less results, but fatigue is where the higher level is. Fatigue is where, you're really gonna reach the higher levels of, athletic development.